This chart, C, we built. Remember, this was always going to be true except for a true-false situation, PQ. Now, equivalent statements. Let's see if I can, let's go to, okay, so look, in this column, and then this should be easier to understand. We know that the not P means P becomes whatever the opposite is, so it's F. We know that the not Q becomes F. So if you say P then Q is true, then not Q, not P is true. And I gave you that example about the sunshine and no clouds. Clouds, then rain, sunshine, no rain. I like that better than their example about poverty. And what this is they're equivalent statements. That means column 5 is going to look exactly like column 6 because the statements, when both negated, make the same sense. I hope that helps a little bit. Now, if one of those was not negated, it's a different story. De Morgan's law. Write the negations of the following statements using De Morgan's law. So look what it says here. Studying is necessary. I'm a hard worker. Studying is not necessary, or I am not a hard worker. Notice the conjunction changes using a negation and Morgan's law. Not only does, and this is on the test, you're going to have to do one like this, but I'm going to give you a great review will tell you how to do it. So again, studying is necessary. What's the opposite? Studying is not necessary. What's the opposite? I am a hard worker. I am not a hard worker. And you change the conjunction from and to or. Boom, it's that simple. Shoplifting is a felony. Shoplifting is not a felony. And not a misdemeanor. I will pass this test. I will not pass this test. I will drop this class. I will not drop this class. I will not pass this test, and I will not drop this course. C is kind of a tough statement because most students, if they don't pass, they want to drop. But in my class, you're all going to get A's, I think, if you cover the review with me. The patient doesn't need an RN and doesn't need an LPN, or she's not very sick. So the patient needs an RN or an LPN, and she's very sick. Notice where the or was, you put the and. Notice where it says needs an RN, it says you don't need it. It's a conjunction here, so needs turns to not need for both RN and LPN. I hope that makes sense. So in using De Morgan's law, you negate it and you change the conjunction from or to and or and to or. Now again, the truth tables. Notice that these are equivalent. Column 5 and 6. Notice not open parentheses P then Q. And then you have P or not Q. They're both false. So we know that they're equivalent. Okay, so let's look at number 4. If you agree to go out with me, I'll buy you a late model vehicle. So that's conditional. If you go out with me, that's the condition, then I buy you a late model vehicle. You write it P then Q. Now, if the negation is, you agree to go out with me, and I do not buy you a late model vehicle. And that's shown there. Now this example is what they give you. Now, could you have said it the other way? I do not agree with you, and I buy you a late model vehicle. Yes, you could. Then the not would be in front of the P, the or would still be the same, and Q would be yes, it is, right? You can negate any one of those if you want. Hope that makes sense. Remember I said if you agree to go out with me, I'll buy you a car. Your example was, you go out with me, but I don't buy you a car. That's shown as P or, and I do not buy you the car. You could also write it, you do not go out with me, but I still buy you the car. So that would be a not P and you would put Q. All right, let's see here. These are conditionals. P then Q. The converse is the opposite. Q then P. They say if P then Q, if Q then P. The inverse is the opposite. The contrapositive is the opposite and switch. Ladies and gentlemen, on 3.5, this table is critical. This is what you're going to need for the test, this table. Take a snapshot of it, write it down, something, because they're going to give you statements, a P and a Q, and they're going to want you to say, write the inverse of it. Well, the inverse of it means that it's a not P and a not Q. The contrapositive of it means you switch the order, Q comes first, but it's negative of it, and then P comes, and it's the negative of that. That's what you have to know. Let's see. So they're going to give you some examples here. P then Q. If you got a high-paying job, then you earn a bachelor's degree. But if you don't have a high-paying job, then you didn't get if they do, let's see, in this case, they want you to write, what does it say, the converse. So you're going to switch it. You did not earn a bachelor's degree. Therefore, you do not have a high-paying job. It's just simple. You just have to go by the chart up here, in a little box, right here. And it tells you what you should say. P then Q, Q then P, inverse, not P, not Q, contrapositive, switch it. Let's see where we're at. They give you another one. If Sophie makes at least $400,000 a year, she can choose to buy a new Mercedes. The converse of that statement. Now, converse, if we go back up here, just one more time, it just simply says you change the order. Q first, then P. There's no negatives. So let's go back and see what it says about Sophie. So we're going to say then, and the converse is that Sophia can choose to buy a new Mercedes. That's bringing that statement first, which is the second part. She makes at least $100,000. That's 6. Let's see. A conditional statement. Variations of a conditional statement. Okay, it says here, write each statement in symbols. If building uses solar heat, the owner will pay less for electricity. That's if P then Q. That's a P then a Q. That should be true. Next one says, using less electricity is necessary for building to use using solar heat. Again, that's a P then a Q. Now, C. A building uses solar heat only if, this is an if and only if statement, the owner pays less for electricity. And that's, again, a P then Q like that. All they're doing is giving you a conditional statements. For my example, I can drive to school today if I have enough money to pay for gas. The opposite would be, if I do not have enough money for gas, I will not be driving to school today. And they just make sense. P then Q. That's 3-3. 3-4 logical arguments. Last one before you guys. Let's see. Check on something. Valid arguments and fallacies. A valid argument is a conclusion that follows some true statements or premises. If it's invalid, then it was a result of some false statements. An error in reasoning that leads to an invalid argument is known as a fallacy. All right, so here's premise one. All students in this class will pass. Rachel is a student in this class. The conclusion will be that she, of course, passes. That's true if the premise is true. Let's go to an example where it's not going to be so confusing. Let's go down further. If the ad campaign is a success, the marketing manager won't lose her job. I would say that that should be true. Ad campaign is a success, the marketing manager won't lose her job. But the marketing manager did lose her job. So the argument is P, that's the marketing manager, will not lose their job. The premise is they won't lose their job. But what happened was they did. So it means not P. So this is probably the hardest one to understand, number one. You need to look at this and try to understand, and the 3 dots means therefore. And it says that in the bottom right there. Marketing manager had a successful ad campaign, therefore she won't lose her job. But the problem is this. Like, let's take these political teams. Let's say they have a very successful team. Let's say you're on one of the presidential candidates' side, we won't mention any. And let's say you're a marketing manager and they win. Well, they don't need you anymore because they already won. You're fired, but you were successful. Yeah, unfortunately, that's how things work sometimes. Again, these are the truth table constructions. Notice when they're all T's, it's tautologies. We don't have any falses. Does anyone remember what they are? If you had all F's, what does that mean? Does anybody remember?